And now, it's Boomer Life, lifestyle discussion designed to make your life more engaging, meaningful, and complete. Celebrating the baby boomer generation, this is Boomer Life on CIL 650.
Well, good morning and welcome to Boomer Life here on CIL 650. Today we're going to focus on your health with the very capable assistance of Dr. Jan Venter from Falls Creek Medical Center. Dr. Venter, a pleasure to have you on the program. Good morning and welcome to Boomer Life.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, it's good to have you with us. You're a family doctor, originally from South Africa. How long have you been in Canada?
Correct. I came over in 2000, having worked on the cruise ship Grandeur of the Seas. And I've got 3 beautiful daughters, lovely wife, and 15 years later.
So you were a cruise ship. You were a love boat doctor for a while after medical school. What an interesting career twist that must have been for you.
It's been a fascinating part of my life, and learned some very interesting things, met some interesting people, and be able to bring some things back home to Canada.
I just very quickly aside, when you're a cruise ship doctor, one gets the impression that you spend most of your time with your feet up sipping pina coladas, but then you forget there are 5,000 people on a cruise ship. I suspect you're a little busier than most people imagine you to have been.
Correct. I was lucky. Royal Caribbean at that stage had 2 doctors. So it was me and a Dutch physician, so we shared call. So one day on, one day off.
Right.
But what most people don't realize, we actually the physician for the crew members on the ship.
Oh, okay.
Out of a passenger, about 3,500, there's about 1,500 crew, and multinational. I mean, people from all over the world, and some of them doing contracts as long as 6 months away from home. So you're dealing with chronic disease, you're dealing with people who burn their fingers, cut off a fingertip or 2, and some emotional issues being away from home.
So the full spectrum of maladies, huh?
So it was really good time to gain experience as a family doctor, as well as emergency medicine. It was fantastic.
I'm curious why you've chosen family medicine as a field of practice, given the full spectrum of specialties out there. Dr. Venter, why did you choose family medicine?
Originally, I wanted to be a chemical engineer. So from about age 3 or 4, I was fascinated by molecules.
Oh, okay.
And wanted to become a chemical engineer. And growing up in South Africa at that stage, there wasn't much hope for biotech or chemical engineering. You had to literally learn how to make oil out of coal, a company called Sasol. And when I went to go do an internship there in my final year in school, I decided that's not what I want to do the rest of my life. I'd rather work with people. And talked to a vocational specialist at the University of the Free State, and guided me towards family medicine.
Right.
And say, well, you can learn about pharmacology if you want to do chemistry, you can still do science, and you can work with people and make a change.
Interesting stuff. You also are the founder of a company called Fusion Medical and Brain Vault Health Systems. Tell us about this project.
So this is something I've got passionate about in the last 10 years, really bringing the best of Western medicine, but combining it or fusing it with what we've known Eastern philosophies over the last 5,000-6,000 years. Things like acupuncture, energy medicine, listening, engaging the patient, using all the molecules out there for the treatment and management of disease. Brain vaults become a passion as we know that we can now replace about 60 to 70% of the human body parts, whether it's bionics or some 3D printed limb, but we can't replace the brain yet. So I became passionate about baselining the brain, measuring the brain, hopefully every year, make sure that your brain is working as healthy as it's supposed to be for your age.
Right.
And then recovering it and making an early diagnosis if there's something going wrong. So trying to see very quickly if your brain is going off track, and then gently pushing it back into the normal track.
I'm looking forward to an extended conversation about some of the brain issues you're dealing with. But back to the fusion medicine. What a perfect city to come to establish a practice in the combination of Western and Eastern medicinal practices and philosophies here on the gateway to the Pacific in the western part of North America? It is an ideal geographical location, isn't it?
Absolutely, it's a dream come true.
And tell us about what you've learned about, because you're trained in South Africa, so traditional Western medical practices, that's your background. Since moving to Vancouver and forming Fusion Medicine, what have you learned from the Eastern practices that you've incorporated most into what you would have done least before? What's the biggest surprise?
The biggest surprise I found is specifically herbal medicine and nutraceuticals, as well as acupuncture. Specifically acupuncture to change the brain's way of healing. I got fascinated by our first child. We had to, or we attended prenatal classes, and there were about two women in the class who had kids who had breech presentation, so the babies were facing the wrong way.
Right.
And they were advised to go and see a traditional doctor of Chinese medicine for acupuncture, and both of them were 100% successful with doing acupuncture. Now,
so with acupuncture, they turned the baby around, and so the birth was normal.
The birth was normal, as you know.
Unbelievable! I hadn't heard of that before.
For me, it was an amazing discovery, and they've been doing this for 5,000 years.
Of course, right. Good of us to catch on finally, wasn't it?
Correct. And having done it the traditional way, you had to do it at 36, 37 weeks. You had to give the woman some painkillers and then hope that you can turn the baby around with usually complications. So finding that is an amazing technique.
And when did you first intersect with the good people at False Creek Healthcare Center?
When I moved here in 2000, I've got to know Dr. Mark Godley quite well and have been referring patients to False Creek Medical since then. False Creek started in 1998. And about a year and a half ago, I started working there as one of the executive medical doctors,
right,
as well as doing something we called functional medicine, and then also started the brain health clinic.
Okay, so you is most of your professional time spent now at False Creek Healthcare?
Correct. Yeah, Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, I'm at False Creek.
It is interesting because they have such a huge team of such accomplished people, some of whom are there, like you are, most of the time, others who are there in more of an on-demand scenario,
correct.
Right?
We try and pick the best specialists for the area. So if somebody comes in with a neurological problem, we try and pick the best person, the best neurologist for that field.
I suppose the real joy in a scenario like False Creek, however, is the quality and caliber of the people who surround you. You have the ability to see a patient who presents with a problem that is not in your area of specialty, but there's a guy 2 doors down the hall that can fix you in no time flat, or somebody upstairs should see you. They're right close by, they're colleagues, and quite happy to share caseloads with you.
That's correct. The other fun thing is that we have more time, so we have unhurried consultations. So I've got up to an hour or more,
right,
if I need to really dive deep into history and genetics and that kind of thing. And then we also have on-site diagnostics. So we've got one of Canada's most advanced MRIs. We've got one of the fastest CT scanners, ultrasound right about 2 doors down from me. Treadmill, so literally at my fingertips, and we can have results literally within minutes of doing the diagnostic test.
Now, there was one, we were just having a coffee before we started, and Dr. Venter talked about something that did you invent it? You came across a kit that can identify strep throat in a child in 3 minutes. Now, did you invent this, or was this an invention that you came across when you were working on the ship?
I wish I'd invented it, but it's an invention I came across on the cruise ship. We were able to, in the middle of the sea, diagnose strep throat and then make a decision whether to put somebody on antibiotics or not.
Yeah, because you
And
don't have the luxury of being able to send out a swab to a lab and we'll call you in the morning.
you can drop the swab in Puerto Rico, and we'll have it next week for you.
Exactly, yeah.
So it was a fun kit to have, and lo and behold, it was easy to get in Canada, and I've been using it ever since at Falls Creek. So we can use from as young as we can do a swab throat, and I've used it on patients in their 70s. So
Right.
amazing technique, and it's available to any patient in BC.
Kind of a long-winded way of suggesting that the client list at Falls Creek Healthcare Center is all ages. You see children, don't
Correct.
you?
Yeah, we just had one of my patients just had her third child born, so we see anybody from cradle to the end stages of their life. And my oldest patient currently is 99, and happy to say that she's already arranging 100.
Well, isn't that something? And when it comes to brain health, this is a real passion of yours. Is there a certain point in anybody's life that beyond which, well, I'm sorry, if you had only started this back when you were 50 or 39 or 71, but you're too late now. Is there it's too late point in people's lives?
The fantastic news is now it's never too late. And Professor Teresa Ambrose from the UBC School of Physiotherapy just presented at the Alzheimer's World Conference in Washington, D.C., that 30 minutes of exercise every day would delay the onset of dementia. And one of their sound bites was, it's never too late.
Okay.
So it's fantastic if you can start as a youngster, but if you get diagnosed at age 80, it's not too late. Don't lose hope.
So 30 minutes of exercise a day
Correct.
can really optimize brain health.
Correct. So the disclosure is that this needs to be exercise where you sweat,
Okay.
not riding in a golf cart, playing a quick 9, and then ticking off and say, oh, I've got my 30 minutes down. So you need to sweat, and there's interesting research that there's a difference between walking and jogging. So I do tell people, okay, start with walking if you haven't done this.
Right.
But you need to get to a point where you do a little bit of jogging, and then the end game is to do what we call interval exercise. So it's where you sprint. So you go fast for a minute, and then you go slow. Go fast for a minute, and 30 minutes is all you need. It is better to do about 45 minutes, but 30 minutes all you need to do.
And this whole business about sweating, Doc, is all about elevated heart rate. That's
Correct.
the object of the exercise.
You need the blood flow.
It's to get your heart beating faster than it would just sitting and conducting yourself in a normal day. You've got to get it up there, and that accelerates the flow of blood through your whole body.
Correct.
So 30 minutes of exercise per day that causes your heart rate and your blood flow to go up.
Correct.
So this is boomer life here. So, we're not, the boomer crowd that I should probably tell you that just before we started, our guest, Dr. Venter, says, well, I'm almost a boomer. It's not something he's really aiming hard for and won't be satisfied until he is, but you're just a little under the cut. But for those of us, say, 55, in our 60s, etc., who recognize, perhaps for the first time, that we need to do something to preserve brain health. The easiest and cheapest way of dealing with it is 30 minutes of exercise a day. But if you're 65 years old, you're not going to go out there and jog 5 miles. You've got to start sensibly, right?
Correct. And one thing I've seen in the last 20 years as a doctor is my patients who live the longest and healthiest are patients who are gardening. So getting their physical exercise.
Now, you were just talking about this. This is your 99-year-old patient who's looking very much forward to her 100th birthday. And her big physical outing every day is gardening, right?
Correct. Gardening, and she does a 30-minute walk up the hill. She lives in the Dunbar area, and she makes sure she sweats. And in the summer months, she goes for a swim almost every day.
Right.
She does take some time off. She goes to Hawaii and spends the winter there, so she gets 3 or 4 months of swimming. And her brain is absolutely remarkable. So you can recall short-term as well as long-term memory.
Do you have instruments that can measure the viability of the brain? You're talking about a 99-year-old woman who's sharp as a tack and great memory and right with it. But do you have instruments that can verify the quality of her brain activity?
Correct. So something I got fascinated about is something called quantified EEG, where you wear a cap of 19 electrodes and
Okay.
it reads brain waves, and it can filter out noise as to real brain data. You can then build a brain map on that. Looks sort of like a weather map, so you see the red spots and the blue spots.
Okay.
Green is what you want to see, and it compares it to a normal brain of the same age. So the database goes from as young as 6 months to as old as currently 89. And if there's spots of deviation, you can then train the brain to get back to normal.
Oh, okay. And just before we take the break, back to this half hour of exercise a day. I think age-appropriate exercise is a good way to describe it, right? Because you're not going to go out and hurt yourself on the first day, because then we're in with the New Year's resolution crowds, those who are going to lose 50 pounds in the first week of January and who have an injured ankle by the third week, and they're done for that whole year. So if anyone is recognizing the need for greater and improved brain health, your whole body health is, your brain is part of that. It's all connected. So a half hour of age-appropriate exercise a day is a great way to begin the process of brain health, right?
Absolutely. My grandmother, to talk about another type of exercise for the brain, played music till well into her 80s. So I do encourage my patients to start playing a musical instrument if they've never done before. And they don't have to be a virtuoso. They don't have to play for the Vancouver Orchestra.
Right, of course.
Just start even playing a harp or a flute or a little electronic piano, or nowadays with some of the tablets you can have a little piano right on there, or guitar. And that activates and stimulates part of the brain that will help brain plasticity.
Interesting. Music, we know from centuries
Absolutely.
of research, music is a powerful stimulant for the brain.
Absolutely.
So a person trying to play music would
Absolutely.
be in a stimulating situation, wouldn't they? No matter what comes out of the instrument.
And even for those folks out there who can't physically play an instrument, just thinking about playing, they've shown with very sophisticated brain imaging that the part of the brain that lights up when you play physically with your fingers is the same part that lights up if you just think about playing piano. And of course, you had to have done it before. So if you played, say, as a youngster, if you played piano or guitar, and you can't physically do that now for whatever requirement,
Right, sure.
just thinking of playing will
Of the sequences you used to have to go through and all of that.
So sort of using that curiosity or the creativity or the imaginative mind can change the brain.
All right, and in terms of brain stimulation, it's got to take the break, but my mother-in-law used to swear by crossword puzzles. She used to do crossword puzzles, a bunch of them every day. Said she just keeps my brain, what was her word? Elastic or something, pliable, something like that. She felt that working her brain, doing the New York Times crossword puzzle every day was a fantastic workout. And I don't imagine she's too far off the mark either, was she?
No, I think she is right on. And one thing that I do tell patients is it's important to see where is the deficiency in the brain. So some people have a problem in the front part of the brain called the frontal lobes,
right,
where things like crossword puzzles are really important. Some people have it more sort of the back of their mind, or what we call the parietal lobes, and that's where something like Sudoku might be better. Playing some. So I tell people, you know what, try something new every day, and something hopefully will stick in the end.
Our guest from Falls Creek Healthcare Center in Vancouver is Dr. Jan Venter. He's a family physician at Falls Creek Healthcare Center, and obviously much more than just a family doc. He's the founder of Fusion Medical and Brain Vault Health Systems at Well. And we'll be back with lots more. It's Boomer Life here on CIL 650.
Celebrating the baby boomer lifestyle. This is Boomer Life on CIL 650.